Hello and welcome to the Barnyard, where me and my co-host Zachary
Hello.
talk about anything and everything farming. Today's topic is going to be the difference between dairy farming and beef farming, and kind of like what a day in each of those is like. So we're just going to jump into it and talk about how we used to dairy farm. And now we run a small beef operation.
Yep.
So we're going to start with beef cows. What do we do every day, Zach?
Well, beef cows are low maintenance, so all they need is water, hay, and the occasional potatoes. Babies
Pop out every spring.
pop out every spring. They don't need much.
We have about 30 head of cattle.
Yeah, about.
About 30 head of cattle. We put a bull in with them twice a year? Once a year? Whatever. And so far this year, we have
17
calves, but there's probably
10 more at least.
10 more, yeah.
At least.
10 more to come. It's always fun watching them run around, though.
Especially when they get up into big bunches.
Yeah, they just run around like a big flock. But yeah, like you said, beef cows are very low maintenance. Like you said, just, making sure they have plenty of food, plenty of space. They need a lot of space.
They do need a lot of space.
Our beef cows are spoiled because we had a nice big barn, a big compost barn set up. That's how big is that?
Size of
It's like
a football field.
Yeah, it's about the size of a football field. It's a big barn. Half of it is used for hay now, but the other half, it used to be all for dairy cows when we had dairy cows. But they're spoiled. Our cows are spoiled when it comes to having plenty of space, a big barn,
Good hay.
good potatoes.
Their quality doesn't matter for the hay.
Yeah.
They'll eat anything.
Yeah, beef cows eat basically anything.
Dairy cows are picky.
Very picky. If their hay got, rained on even just the littlest bit, they wouldn't touch it. But now for what a day in the life of, milking cows was like when we used to milk over 100 head of cows, dairy cows, and that was fun.
At the least.
Yeah. I miss it. I do. I loved milking cows. I liked milking our cows. Other people's cows, screw that. I'm not doing that again. But our cows, no, they were something special. They were all weird.
Very weird. Different shapes, sizes, and heights. And colors.
We used to be called Over the Rainbow Dairy Farm because we had so many different misfit cows.
Many misfits.
But, a day in the life of dairy farming entailed waking up at 4:30 in the morning. You wouldn't remember much of that because you were tiny.
Mm-hmm.
You were small and insignificant when we milked cows.
That's about it.
But waking up at 4:30 in the morning, going down when it's still dark, calling the cows in from the field or sending out the cow dogs to bring them home. I remember that one morning we were bringing the cows home, or I was at least. I was at the edge of the barnyard, and it was dark, and there's a light on the back of one of our barns that flickers now, and it's a really low, creepy light, and I just remember seeing that flickering to the left of me, and then I shine my flashlight out, and all I can see is a bunch of glowing eyes from the cows, and it scared the crap out of me.
That's typical.
But yeah, waking up early, getting them in the barn, getting everybody chained up, and that was a chore in itself. You remember how they used to jump in and out of stalls?
Take their heads, take up the entire stall.
Block the aisle.
Start fighting.
Yeah. But then we would, get them all situated in their stalls, get them their grain, and then milking cows consisted of trying not to get smacked in the face with a dirty tail, especially in the summer. God, that was the worst. Or when it's really, like, wet and rainy outside in the spring, and the cows are wet, and then you're wet, and just nobody's happy at that point. But that all just consists of getting everybody in the barn, getting them their grain, and then washing, stripping, drying, putting on the unit, making sure that the bulk tank and everything was set up correctly. I can't count how many times we had milk spill all over the place because it wasn't done right. That always sucked. Yeah, and then
Feeding the dairy cows.
once everybody was milked and everything, we have to go out to the feed rail, feed the dairy cows. Anything between hay and then whatever silage and haylage that we could get. That stuff smelled amazing. Very good. You go outside in the morning and it was like the first thing you could smell. I miss that. I miss walking into a barn full of animals just bellowing at you first thing.
Yep.
Milked our own cows in a couple years, because after we sold the entire herd, we kept 8. And then we
milked them for 3 years.
Yep, while raising steers,
and then using that milk to feed those babies that we bought.
Yeah, most of those were bought in babies.
And then we sold the rest and
switched to full beef after that last group went.
Yep.
Or, well, once that last group was weaned, I guess.
Feeding babies is an entirely another story.
Yeah. Well, because we would always have about, 30 at a time to feed?
At least.
Yeah.
Well, occasionally it would go down to 20s.
Yeah, 20 to 30 young steers and heifers to feed. And that was between, when we had the last few cows, we kept 8.
Yep.
I think. And that was between, getting milk from them and then buying milk replacer and stuff, and making all of those bottles was a hassle. Because we just milked the cows into big buckets, basically, and then strained the milk, and then just made bottles for them, and feeding that many calves
took forever.
Yeah, that was a pain. Well, that was mostly you doing that. I milked more cows, you fed more calves. Talk about how difficult bucket feeding was.
Bucket feeding wasn't the worst, it's just the training, the bucket feeding. Trying to get them to look down instead of up. Yeah.
The difference between bucket feeding and bottle feeding is pretty obvious, but bucket feeding, you just put their milk into just a small 2-gallon pail, yeah. And you just kind of have to, show it to them and, put their head in the bucket a little bit to show them, hey,
it's down there.
Yeah, your food's in there.
And then bottle feeding is you have a 4-pint bottle, and you have a nipple on it, which would simulate a mother's nipple, and they usually take to that way faster.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just kind of instinct for them to take to that. Yeah. But, between when we used to dairy farm and then when we used to, now beef farming, it's a lot different.
It's a big difference.
It's, less work, but more work at the same time. Because you have to make a lot more feed. But we make most of our own. Well, we make all of our own hay. That's the only thing we can make. Equipment-wise. Beef cows eat a lot more. But they're
not... their name.
Yeah, but they're not picky.
No. So that's good at the same time.
Yeah. They'll eat, whatever you put in front of them. It doesn't matter if it's grassy hay or if it's nice thick alfalfa and clover. They'll just eat it. They don't care. If it gets rained on or snowed on, they don't care. But now dairy cows would stick their noses up at that because they're dainty little jerks.
Stubborn.
They're so stubborn. Beef cows are also a lot more... They're hardier than a dairy cow. Dairy cows will... It's easier for them to pinch a nerve or go down with milk fever after they have a calf. But now beef cows, knock on wood, we haven't had that happen pretty much at all as far as I can remember.
No.
Like,
only once. Maybe twice.
Dairy cows were more likely to get sick or go down. Even dairy calves, they were more likely to get sick, but our beef calves are all, once again, knock on wood, in perfect health.
But they are outside all year.
Yeah, they're outside all the time. But our barn was always opened up for the dairy calves, too. They had plenty of fresh air, and the barn is always clean.
Well, that looks like that's all the time that we have right now. So make sure you tune in next time to the Barnyard. Bye.